It's every parent's worst nightmare.
Jennifer found a small bag next to Cal, and it had blue pills in it. Almost immediately, the Washington County Sheriff's deputy said that if you're the praying type of people, you should start praying.
We put fake pills next to real pills, and you cannot tell the difference.
It was determined that it was fake pills that looked like oxycodone and Xanax, but were actually fentanyl.
Our life from that moment on was a completely different life. It was never, ever going to be the same.
What every parent needs to know about fentanyl, a KOIN 6 special presentation, brought to you in partnership with the Mark Wahlberg Youth Foundation and Walmart in cooperation with the DEA.
Good evening, I'm Elizabeth Din.
And I'm Jeff Gianola. Welcome to this special edition of KOIN 6, what every parent needs to know about fentanyl.
And tonight, we bring you a warning about pills that are taking the lives of young people at an alarming rate.
Drug deaths in teens 14 to 18 rose a staggering 94% between 2019 and 2020. Many of those deaths from fake pills. Teens and young people looking for prescription drugs like OxyContin, Percocet, Xanax, and Adderall. Instead, they receive a deadly dose of the powerful opioid, fentanyl.
Like Cal Epstein, the Sunset High School graduate was home from his first semester of college when he took what he thought was oxy and was poisoned by fentanyl.
Cal was the brightest light I know. He filled up a room with his smile, with his laugh, with his energy. He was friends to everyone. He had deep, deep integrity and value system. He was both cautious and curious. He was a great student and a great employee and worked with children, teaching them how to swim. And at the same time, he would get into a little mischief with driving his friends around, and 12 of them in the minivan a week after he got his license, you know, loud music, and, you know, he was pretty typical teenager. I mean, to the world, to me, he was, you know, one of two most amazing young lads I've ever known, and ever will. He was a great guy.
I think when I think of Cal, what I think of most is just his great sense of humor, and how no matter what the situation where he was, he could make people laugh. He just knew how to make everyone feel like they were welcome, everybody feel like they were part of the group. He was a community builder, he was a leader. People looked to him and trusted him and knew that if Cal gave them his word, that he would be there for them. He was a great friend, he was a great brother, he was great to all of his cousins, and you know, he was a great son.
The second half of senior year, which was in 2020, was a hard spot. Between COVID and Cal's developed some anxiety, it was hard. We ended up sort of through the summer before university, Cal and we worked together to help him find professional resources to help him with his anxieties, therapists. And that was working pretty well, and he really wanted it. He pulled it, so that was great. And he had been accepted into, you know, half a dozen universities. Where he most wanted to go was University of Hawaii. I think the surf and sun lifestyle fit him. By all accounts, he had a pretty good semester. He chose to come in mid-December and was going to be home for maybe almost a month. So we were beside ourselves with that opportunity to see him again and reconnect. He had only been home a couple days when things, he'd only been home a couple days when things happened. He was scheduled to take a COVID test on a Monday morning, and we noticed that the car hadn't left at the time of the appointment. So we went to check on Cal, and we found him unresponsive. We did all the things you do when you find someone unresponsive. This was a team effort, Jennifer and myself and Cal's brother Miles. 911 call, you know, waiting on the corner, CPR, all this kind of thing. Washington County first responders were here. In the middle of this, Jennifer found a small bag next to Cal, and it had blue pills in it with a M30 on them. She gave them to the first responders, and almost immediately the Washington County Sheriff sheriff's deputy, said that that looks like fentanyl. If you're the praying type of people, you should start praying. You know, I don't even know if we'd heard of fentanyl before, probably had heard it at some point, but didn't register really at all. So Miles and Jennifer and I stood together on the street while they took Cal into the ambulance into the hospital. We went to the hospital and we stayed with Cal in the emergency room for a few hours till he was stable, and then we went to ICU where we waited to find out what was going to be the situation. And it was too much. The loss of oxygen from the respiratory depression that the fentanyl caused was too much for his brain. And so eventually that week we had to say goodbye to Cal, and his cousins came to the hospital. We made the difficult but rewarding decision to donate Cal's organs. We knew that Cal, as a really, really unbelievably giving person, that would be fitting. We said goodbye to Cal, and that happened, and then we came home and said, what just happened?
You know, we did spend a few months learning about fentanyl and what's going on in the drug scene after that, because we really, like John said, it took us by surprise. We had not really known about fentanyl prior to finding a package of pills near him.
As we were picking up the pieces and learning, you know, one of our questions was not just what is fentanyl, but like, how did Cal have it? This powerful, you know, legit pharmaceutical medicine that they give for end-of-life patients and extreme pain in the hospital. How did Cal have that? And what we came to find out was that, you know, this was not hospital fentanyl. This was not legit pharmaceutical fentanyl. It's illicitly made fentanyl, and it's being packaged into fake pills, into pills that are being marketed and sold to look like something else. And we weren't the only ones. Cal was not the only one by any stretch. There were a number, hundreds of people that had preceded Cal. This was in late 2020, and so there was no information like there is today about counterfeit pills, about fake pills. The DEA's "one pill can kill" campaign didn't come for many months later. Nothing like the ad council we see today. So none of that existed. You know, there's a number of sad things that you do after your child's gone, like, for instance, going to Hawaii and you know, cleaning up his dorm room. That's something that will live with me forever. But another is going through his things, including his laptop. So, you know, I got to look at his pictures and his school papers and, you know, how he kept his desktop organized on his computer and all this sort of stuff. But also I got to go through his browser history, right? What I found was the day before he bought the pill, he went online and he searched for what is Oxy and what is the right dose for my weight and how will it interact with my medicine that I'm taking. So he went online and he got a set of answers about pharmaceutical Oxy. And certainly that was part of his decision-making process when he eventually reached out on Snapchat and bought what he thought was what he was told and thought was a legitimate pharmaceutical pill. Not knowing, because he didn't know, we didn't know, that these pills are not real. They're not the real thing. You know, we'll never know the exact reason he chose to do what seemed like it might be the first time that he ever tried that. We'll never know. But we know that he didn't know about fentanyl in these pills. We're pretty certain that kids who do know will make safer and smarter choices.
When we learned what was going on, we realized that, yes, we had shared with our own personal community, but we wanted to share it even wider. And so we approached Beaverton School District in, I think it was March of 2021. And Beaverton had lost a few students to fentanyl, and they were grappling with what to do. And we offered to share Cal's story in the name of educating people, and they jumped on the opportunity. And we spent about a month with Beaverton developing the Fake and Fatal program, and it was a very comprehensive program where they developed classroom education. They did a community conversation or a town hall type event where they promoted it highly within their community. They did a social media campaign. They educated their staff and faculty. They worked on getting Narcan in the schools. They basically did everything that I would have hoped for them to do. We knew that Beaverton was perhaps the first school district that really did such a large-scale campaign with their community and students. And so I approached Beaverton School District and asked if they would make their content public and if they would share it with other school districts so other school districts could raise awareness. I approached the Turnans at Song for Charlie and asked them if we could use the Song for Charlie platform to help reach schools and promote fentanyl awareness in schools. And so we developed a partnership with Song for Charlie. I now work for Song for Charlie, and we use the Beaverton School District as the foundation of the school outreach program through Song for Charlie.
Recent research that Song for Charlie did shows that about 2/3 of teenagers have no idea about fentanyl in fake pills. And something like only 30% of them think they know the dangers of fentanyl, when in fact even less than that really do. So the message to kids is know that these are out there, and know that any pill that you find from a friend, on social media, any place other than from your doctor in a bottle with your name on it from the pharmacy, these pills are fake and they contain fentanyl, and in many cases there's enough in there to do serious damage.
What we're trying to do is get across to people that the drug landscape has changed and that it is just so much more dangerous than ever before, and that the days of experimentation need to be behind us. The internet has made it super accessible for everyone. Kids can get fentanyl delivered to their door. Anyone can get it delivered to their door in a matter of minutes. They're being sold as Percocet, Xanax, Adderall. You know, in my mind, every family should have Narcan in their medicine cabinet. Even if you don't think your kid might have a pill, which I think that no parent should do that. Every parent should be open to the idea that their kid might get their hands on something. But even if you think your kid is a low-risk kid, you don't know who they might bring over to their house, to your house for a sleepover, or have it in your car. You don't know if you could be at a football game and there could be an overdose there. And I think that parents need to learn how to talk to their kids about this too. We know that kids, when they're lectured to, they tune us out. They won't listen. We need to talk to kids, ask them questions, ask them what they know, ask them what they're hearing, what they're seeing in their schools, what they're seeing with their friends, and then share what you're seeing and what you've learned. We have become experts in an area we never wished we knew about, but the fact of the matter is this is something that everybody needs to know.
Cal made a mistake. We recognize that, and we're not defending, a bad choice, but choices should be informed by information. And the consequences of choices shouldn't be instant death. So that's why we make sure that as many kids as we can find know.
As Jennifer mentioned, she now works for Song for Charlie, a nonprofit focused on educating young people about the dangers of fake pills. You can go to songforcharlie.org right now to find videos specifically for teens and parents, toolkits for middle and high school and college students, facts about fentanyl, and more. We've also posted a link for you on KOIN.com. And join us after the show on Facebook. Jennifer and John will join us live along with other guests to answer your questions.
Jennifer said everyone should be carrying Narcan, and she's not alone. Dr. Bradley Buchheit specializes in substance use disorder, and specifically opioids at OHSU. I sat down with him to better understand how fentanyl affects the body and how Narcan can stop it. Drugs in young people, that's always been a concern going back. I know when I was in high school and stuff. But this is something different, isn't it? When we talk about opioid addiction, fentanyl, this is like that concern on steroids in a way, isn't it?
In adolescence, it is normal for people to try different things, right? Try different foods, try different careers, see what they like, right? And part of that occasionally for some people is trying substances. The difference with fentanyl being in the drug supply is you could try something once and it could be the last thing that you do. So fentanyl is a full agonist opioid, which is medical jargon for when it binds to the opioid receptors that you have in your brain, specifically the mu opioid receptor. There's a number of different opioid receptors, but that's the one that really can trigger respiratory depression. It also is the same receptor that can cause euphoria and treat pain. When it binds to that receptor, it activates it. And when it activates it, it does a number of different things, whether it's treating pain or sort of reducing your drive to breathe at higher doses. And so that's really what fentanyl does, is it gets into your bloodstream, it crosses that blood-brain barrier, and then it activates those receptors in your brain. And if you activate too many of those receptors, in essence what it's doing is it's telling your brain stem to not continue that drive to take the next breath. And so as you sort of overdose, if you will, your brain's not telling your body to breathe anymore. You stop breathing. Without breathing, you don't get oxygen into the bloodstream. Without oxygen in the bloodstream, systems start to shut down, including the heart and the brain, and then that leads to death.
And with fentanyl, it can happen like that.
Seconds to minutes, depending on the dose that people are exposed to. So if someone is using IV, seconds to minutes. If someone is taking it by mouth, probably more minutes to 30 minutes would be maximum, most likely. But it really depends on how you're taking it. But it's a very fast-acting medication. Everyone should be carrying and know how to use naloxone. And I think that the reason is over the past few years within the state of Oregon, we've seen dramatic change in our drug supply. We went from seeing black tar heroin in the drug supply to now almost all fentanyl, which is about 50 times as potent as morphine. And with that change, you know, people who were overdosing on heroin, it would take minutes or sometimes even hours for them to overdose. With fentanyl, it can be seconds to minutes, and so we are seeing spikes in overdose deaths in Oregon, and really a need to be able to quickly and effectively initiate the reversal drug naloxone or Narcan, and it can be a passerby who initiates it and administers it. It could be a loved one, it could be a family member, but I really think that everyone in the state should be carrying naloxone.
Now, is that what you carry around with you?
Yes. So this is the naloxone nasal spray. Yes, so naloxone is what we call an opioid antagonist. So it binds to the same receptors that fentanyl, oxycodone, heroin bind to, but it has such a strong binding affinity at those receptors that if another opioid is on that receptor, it will kick it off. And it does not activate the receptor at all. And so what you do is if you see someone and you're concerned for an overdose, right, they're not breathing, they have blue lips, or you know, their pupils are pinpoint, those types of things that you'd be looking for, then what you would do is you would peel it open, place this part in their nostril all the way up until it hits the bottom here, and then you would press. So peel, place, press. And then if you feel comfortable or have been trained in basic life support or advanced life support, then you could do rescue breathing and or CPR, and you would repeat this every 2 minutes until you got a response.
Wow. And that's, in Oregon, you can get that without a prescription?
You can. So you can go to any pharmacy and ask the pharmacist for a prescription of naloxone, and there may be a copay, but it is accessible via most pharmacies.
According to the CDC, naloxone won't hurt someone that is not overdosing on opioids. It has no effect on someone who does not have opioids in their system.
It's a good idea for everyone to carry it because fentanyl has taken over the drug market. I sat down with DEA Acting Special Agent in Charge, Jake Galvin. What makes fentanyl so dangerous?
So fentanyl is a synthetic opioid, and it's so dangerous because it's 100 times more potent than morphine. It's 50 times more potent than heroin. It's just the chemical makeup of that's how strong it is.
Where does it come from?
So going back to call it the origin of it, the fentanyl is made in China. Chinese chemical companies are producing massive amounts of the fentanyl, and they sell it to cartels in Mexico. So it goes from China, it goes to Mexico. The cartels take the fentanyl, they either send it over the border in powder form, or mostly what we're seeing is pill form. They're pressing pills into the fake oxycodone pills, the Xanax pills, the Adderall. It's in everything. Fentanyl is in every drug out there. It's in cocaine, it's in methamphetamine. Once they produce it there, then it's smuggled across the border, throughout the whole southwest border. And for this region particularly, it does come up the I-5 corridor through Los Angeles, San Francisco, Portland, up into Seattle.
So I might get a bag of these fake pills, and there may be minuscule amount of fentanyl, no deal, but there's no sort of rhyme or reason about how they're not sitting there carefully measuring out fentanyl or whatever. We don't know what's in these pills, right?
No, these pills aren't produced in what we know as, say, a pharmaceutical grade laboratory that has clean rooms and standard operating procedures and regulations that are followed. These are labs that are produced in, say, the countryside, in a shack that looks, nobody would want to go into it. There's no quality control. These are backyard chemists that are doing this. So that's why there is not a uniform amount in any of the pills that we see or the powder we see. What we do see is that 4 out of 10 pills contain a lethal dose of fentanyl, which is only about 2 milligrams, and that's just about enough to fit on the tip of a pencil.
Okay, describe to folks when we say fake pills of fentanyl. How realistic do these fake pills look to the real thing?
We put fake pills next to real pills, to our agents, to our diversion investigators, to other individuals, and you cannot tell the difference.
That's scary.
They are made to look exactly the same.
And that's what makes it scary. So a young kid thinks, hey, he gave me some of his oxycodone, you know, and there could just be a minute amount of fentanyl, and that could poison, or that kid could die of an overdose, right?
Exactly. And we've seen scenarios like that where one friend went to another friend to say, hey, I can't sleep, this hurts, something like that. Hey, I have this, take this. Okay, I'll take it. That friend doesn't know where that person got it from. And we've seen it where that person that's received it, you know, has been poisoned by that fake pill. What the cartels have done, they've taken over social media and they've used that to push it. And the way they do this is through apps like Snapchat, all TikTok, all the social media apps that kids are on right now. And what we see is the most at-risk demographic is 18 to 44-year-olds. That's usually a demographic that's very technology-wise, and that's who's using these apps. So for instance, say if there's an event or a concert, somebody that's selling these pills, they'll get on that site, and they'll literally advertise on that site with their emojis, I have this for sale, I have this for sale, DM me, or I'll be over here, or I'll be wearing this. So it's a very anonymous transaction is what it is right now. Because especially in Snapchat, all these communications disappear once the conversation is over.
So what you're saying is the messages they're sending out on social media aren't blatant. They're kind of coded message, and everyone knows the code.
It's all coded, and there's no words in there. It's strictly the emojis, and then maybe meet me over here. And that could even be a coded conversation of where that location is.
And your agents see that all the time?
All the time, every day.
So you've been with the DEA for a number of years, so you've been on the forefront of the battles of cocaine, heroin. How does this rate up there, this latest thing on fentanyl?
I've been on with the DEA for 24 years. I've worked overseas. I've seen labs associated with methamphetamine in my time when I worked overseas, and how much methamphetamine was in the country at that time. This is completely different. This is overwhelming to how much fentanyl has flooded the United States. There's no comparison from now to that time.
How's the DEA trying to battle this latest war when it comes to fentanyl?
This is DEA's top priority. I can say this, that every agent in the United States is working on it, and every agent that has a connection to producing fentanyl or shipping fentanyl in the world is working on this.
There's starting to be a lot more awareness about fentanyl and opioids. Are you noticing any of that awareness as far as the DEA and the battle to control this? Are we seeing it go down, or what are we seeing?
I hope that we're starting to turn the corner to where people are starting to recognize how dangerous this is, because it literally is one pill will kill you.
Since our interview with Special Agent Galvin, the DEA issued a new public safety alert warning that new lab testing found 6 out of 10 fentanyl-laced pills now contain a lethal dose.
And that's why educating our young people is more important than ever. Beaverton School District has led the nation in developing an education program for students and parents.
Kristen Gustafson worked with the Epsteins to develop the district's Fake and Fatal education campaign. Why is this a crisis and so scary?
Because one pill can actually kill and take a life. So we've had several students that have died from fentanyl poisoning, and the ripple effect on the community it's really hard. And so these kids are, they're choosing to take a pill. They're not choosing to kill themselves. And so it's deadly. It's an epidemic because it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care how old you are, how young you are, your socioeconomic status, right? The access to this deadly substance it's killing many of our teens and our young people today.
How has Beaverton School District responded to this opioid fentanyl crisis?
Well, we responded very quickly, and the Epsteins had a lot to do with that. So a huge educational piece to prevent, right, to get prevention education out there, a website created with lesson plans for teachers and even other districts to come and pull resources from the Epsteins and their personal, story, their willingness to share their personal story and how it impacted their family. Cal's story is well known across the district because we've been showing it in classrooms, but just their willingness to share their heart-wrenching story, and then coming alongside and educating, pushing the education piece.
So if I'm a concerned parent, then I'm able to click on the Beaverton Schools website, and then what happens if I'm looking for that particular information?
So a parent would want to go, and the easiest way to search would either put in the name fentanyl or Fake and Fatal has become kind of our campaign in Beaverton. And so that whole information page would appear. It has information on lessons that are being taught in the Beaverton School District. It has resources to organizations, and it has videos and educational information for parents and community members to access. It is a partnership. And in our health education classes, as health educators, we're always telling our parents that the conversations that we have with our students on any health topic starts in the classroom, but it really needs to be finished at home. And so we really are encouraging that partnership with our parents to help get the word out.
Have you guys had contact with other school districts from across the country? How are they responding to this whole crisis?
Beaverton's not unique. This is hitting every school district across the nation. We were just fortunate to have a family willing to kind of do the hard work and push this forward. People from across the country, all sorts of other school districts asking if they can have access to our resources. And we've said, even take the name Beaverton off of it, right? Just have access to our materials. If this will help save other students' lives, then we should be getting it out everywhere.
You know, it's hard to tell when you start something like that, if in fact it saved a life or if it had, but what is your feeling on that? Do you think the program has been effective?
You know, I really do. Working with students all the time and having conversations with them. 2 years ago, we were responding, and I feel like today we are preventing.
The Beaverton School District has made their Fake and Fatal Education program available to school districts across the country, and you can access it as well. You can go to the Beaverton School District website and search Fake and Fatal. You'll find health lessons for high school and middle school students and videos like Cal's story and the Fake and Fatal community conversation hosted last year.
And Kristen will be joining us live after the show tonight, along with the Epsteins and Special Agent Galvin, to answer your questions about fentanyl on our Facebook page.
This KOIN 6 special, What Every Parent Needs to Know About Fentanyl, is brought to you in partnership with the Mark Wahlberg Youth Foundation and Walmart in cooperation with the DEA.
Welcome back. Cartels making the fake pills are capitalizing on a country that was already battling an opioid addiction crisis. People of all walks of life have become addicted after getting a legitimate prescription to pain pills from common procedures like having their wisdom teeth removed or a surgery from a sports injury.
And that's what happened to Taylor Martinek, a Jesuit high school graduate and Portland State University football player.
Taylor was the life of the party. He was energetic. He had the best smile in the world. Everybody thought that Taylor was his best friend just because he was so engaged, spirited, and was really interested in other people, in their life, in their success, in their shenanigans. He was a great athlete. He was a great friend. He was a good sibling.
And I was blessed to have a very close relationship with him on and off the field, as a father, but also as a coach. He was the guy on all of the teams that I coached that he was on, that when we needed to make things happen, he was the go-to guy. He was inspirational and fired up, to say the least, and just a lot of fun to be around. He and I had a special bond on and off the field for sure, which made what ended up happening even more difficult.
Tell us about his injury. I think it first happened in high school, right?
Yeah. So he, playing football, he had a torn labrum in his shoulder. And so his first shoulder surgery was after his junior football season. And so that was the first one, but he was home. So we were able to manage medications and help him get back into physical therapy and school, and he was motivated to get back for his senior year. And then was his sophomore year at PSU. So then he got it repaired again.
At Portland State.
At Portland State. And he was in college and he wanted to be with his friends, and that was before all of the oxy was managed and more tightly monitored by doctors. And so he would get prescriptions of 90 tablets, and they'd be refillable, monthly. And so he got addicted to oxy.
Did you guys realize at the point that maybe he was taking too many oxy? Was there any alarm bells that went off in your head that maybe, how does he get off this stuff?
Well, that didn't happen until later. And at first, we thought that it might be alcohol. And then it wasn't until he got out of football. Eventually, he had another surgery on his elbow. And eventually the team doctor said, we can put you back together again, but if you get hurt, nobody will be able to put you back together again the right way. And it's more important for you to have a quality of life beyond your years playing football. And so they didn't clear him. And so he had to give up football.
And I'm sure that depressed him.
Oh, absolutely.
How did that affect him, Brenda?
He was lost. You know, it was his identity was wrapped up in sports, and being an excellent athlete and very popular and the heart of the team. He was lost, honestly, and I think then it started to spiral, and we tried to intervene here and there.
Somewhere along the line, could Taylor not get the prescription for Oxy?
So we talked to his doctors, and they wrote in notes that he couldn't get
Oxycodone.
any of the narcotic.
Xanax.
Yeah.
It was oxycodone and
Xanax. Those were his two preferred medication. It was horrible. I mean, we worked for probably 5 years to keep this boy alive.
Yeah.
And he never wanted this. He was a lovely, happy, proud person. What I hope people understand is people that are addicted or have substance use issues, they don't want this. They're trying, and they're beating themselves up more than anybody else is. And that's what was happening for Taylor. Taylor was getting more and more depressed. He was getting upset with himself that he couldn't just stop. And so he agreed to go into treatment. He ended up going into treatment 2 times. He had finally moved out with friends. They had all agreed that it was going to be a drug-free, alcohol-free environment for him. His friends and his siblings were rallying around him. He was working full-time. He loved his job. And so things were going right. You know, he was getting a promotion at his job. They loved him. And I think he started getting really stressed and anxious about his promotion because he was finally being successful again. And so he didn't know any drug dealers anymore. He went and found some Oxy and Xanax at work. Through work. And unfortunately, they weren't Oxy and Xanax. They were fentanyl. And so he died immediately.
If this is too painful, just tell me, but when you got that call, or when you got, what was that like as a parent?
It's every parent's worst nightmare. You know, we all, as parents, think of things that could happen to your child, your children. And it was just exactly what your nightmares would show you. It was a beautiful, sunny Saturday. There was snow on the ground. It was the night of the father-daughter dance at Jesuit
Our youngest
for my
daughter,
youngest
Deanna.
daughter. Yeah. I was picking out ties, getting ready for that when the phone rang.
She was coming down in a beautiful dress.
And we got the call from the boys who lived with him, who had left the night before and spent the night somewhere else because they were so frustrated that Taylor had relapsed. And before they left, they told him, "You broke the covenant. You're going to have to move out. You need to think about that and figure out where you're going to go." And he had called us the night before and begging us to tell them to let him stay there. And that was the last time we talked to him. But we got the call, and we got in my truck and drove as fast as I could in the snow to the apartment where he lived, hoping like hell that he was alive, but knowing
that he wasn't.
I knew he wasn't.
At what point did you realize that this was fake Oxy, or that was the cause of death? What was that time frame? Did you suspect that at the time, Brian?
I did, and so did the investigators there. They found pills in the room. It was determined that it was fake pills that looked like oxycodone and Xanax, but were actually fentanyl. I was in law enforcement, so I had talked to Taylor about fentanyl. I knew that it was coming up from California and Mexico at that time. I had told him a number of times, it's Russian roulette, dude. All it takes is one time when you don't know. Never fully expecting that that's what would happen.
I don't want any other parent to have to bury their child. And so we we felt we needed to do something. So we did a couple of things on both ends, more of the prevention and recovery and education side, and then also on getting drugs off the street that are killing our kids. We met with the DA's office and created Taylor's Law.
It was very disappointing and frustrating to know that there was not going to be an adequate consequence to the behaviors of those people that sold those drugs to my son. The unfortunate part of the reason that I am optimistic about Taylor's Law passing is because, as we predicted in 2018, if we don't pass this law, there are going to be many, many more deaths due to
hundreds and hundreds.
Fentanyl and fake
And
pills. And now there are. And every day people reach out to Taylor's Law Oregon Facebook page to introduce themselves as someone who lost their child.
Yeah, they're now in the boat that nobody wants to be in.
They're in the club that no one wants to be.
Seems like you did everything with Taylor. I mean, it wasn't like you were the detached parents. You were involved in the treatment, and still this happened because of that. But what would be your advice to parents who will listen to this, who think, you know what, I'm in a similar situation? What's your advice to them if they have a child who they suspect is going through something like this?
It can happen to you. It can happen to your family, and you need to do everything you can to try to prevent that. And education is the only prevention that's going to help with it. And a relationship with your child so that they believe you when you're talking to them about what they should and can do. Being open and honest about drug use is probably the best thing they can possibly do.
Don't give up on them. Just don't. Love them anyway. They are two different people. Yeah. They are battling. They are battling, and they are going to infuriate you. And you're going to think they're disrespectful and they don't care and they don't want to help themselves. And that's the drugs talking. You know, when Taylor was at his worst, we would tell our kids, just wait for the moments that you see our Taylor and just love him then. And know that your son or your daughter, they're really in there. And just don't give up. Do everything that you can to keep him alive, or her alive, or them alive.
The Martiniks are hopeful that Taylor's Law will pass in the next Oregon legislative session, which begins in January.
Brenda actually talked about the ripple effect that these tragedies have on families and friends. I was able to sit down with Brenda and Brian's daughter, Erin, to talk about how losing Taylor changed her life.
If Taylor hadn't passed away, I'd still be a police officer. It's my absolute passion in life to help people. I always say, when someone calls 911, that's their worst day, and police officers get a chance. I got a chance to make it better. But I knew that I had to prioritize my own mental health and not be a first responder anymore, even though I do believe I was made for it.
You can watch more of my interview with Erin right now on KOIN.com.
The Martiniks are just one of dozens of families in our area who have lost loved ones. There may be no one better for your child to hear from than our next guests.
Allie and Carmela, only 16 years old, they are both dealing with the tragic loss of their siblings and trying to keep their friends from making the same mistakes.
Tell me about your sister. What was she like?
Kirsten really loved food, spicy food especially. Her favorite food was usually like chicken wings. She was definitely a sister's girl. She loved me and my sister. We spent a lot of time together going to the river in the summer. She had got her license a year before she passed, and I don't know, her having a car, we had a lot of adventures together, a lot of time together. She was interested in like being a marine biologist or a lawyer. She enjoyed arguing a lot.
She sounded beautiful and very exciting and lively.
Yeah, when people ask me like, how did your sister pass, just kind of saying that she overdosed, I feel like isn't enough, you know. I feel like I want to share more, or even just say like it was an accident.
And how old were you when you lost your brother?
I was 14 years old.
And he still has an impact on you to this day, I know. You've got his shirt on, you enjoy talking about him, and what do you want others to know?
Brandon was totally my best friend. He was definitely like no one you would ever have met. So incredibly different in a positive way. I wish more people could have got to know him.
So that night, it was a family friend's birthday, and I was also invited to it. And my dad had told me that he didn't have a good feeling about it. And my sister had went over there, and she had told me what she was doing, and I was constantly texting her, and then like 10 minutes passed by and she's not answering me, and I don't know, I had this bad feeling myself. And a couple hours later, I heard my dad get a phone call, and I just automatically knew.
Your brother had been through a lot of ups and downs, but he also was on a really great personal journey when this struck.
During COVID, a lot of people had a really hard time, but that was the best time for us because I got to be with him all the time. We were always together. And that was when he was on his journey of sobriety, and he was 15 months sober. And, you know, he was on a great path. He, at the top of his job, you know, like about to get a car, about to do so many fun things, and he was really growing. And no one would have ever expected it. He had plans, you know, and it was insane. Like, no one would have ever thought. Brandon? No. No way.
Does a part of you think that that's what it was, is just trying to cope, or, I don't know, deal with a tough moment?
It was totally spare the moment. It was totally just like, let's do this quick fix. And I don't know all of what he was feeling, but I think it had a lot to do with loneliness.
I wouldn't say I blame myself, but I definitely just have that like feeling like to where I feel like I could have done something, you know, I could have like didn't have to go that way.
Yeah, and since then I know you've learned a little bit more about it was fentanyl, right?
I just don't think people really realize how strong it is. I've actually been in that situation before to where I knew someone was gonna try and use pills, and I just told them like, you may think that it's something, but it could be something else, and no matter who you get it from, someone you trust, they might not even know what's in there, you know. They could have got it from anywhere and just reselling it.
Wow, and you were able to stop them from getting the pills?
Yeah.
That's pretty huge.
It made me feel pretty good, you know, to be able to stop someone from making that decision.
When Brandon first passed away, I didn't know how to navigate at all, and so I did have people offer me different things, to like drugs, and personally, I had no like boundaries set, you know, to say, no, I'm not gonna do this. And also just like, is it really the cool thing to do? Like, is it really that cool? When my brother passed away from it, I think I've kind of talked to people about that a lot. Like, I don't know how you could ever find that cool. I don't think it's talked about enough, but I do see a little bit here and there, like on social media, but it's never really like talked about. And I've talked to multiple people who don't know what fentanyl even is.
Is there a message to parents?
Well, kids are definitely sneakier than you think nowadays.
And it's out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy for people to get a hold of.
A lot easier than you think. You can definitely find stuff like that on Instagram, Snapchat, probably Facebook, like any known social media platform.
It's that easy.
Yeah.
And what do you want others to understand?
Definitely just be yourself and be a leader. You know, don't follow just to be cool. Your life matters more than that. Definitely.
Wow, that was very powerful. Those young women had to grow up very quickly, Elizabeth.
Yeah, I could really feel their intensity. They're both mature and wise. And think about this. Last spring, Portland Public Schools lost 2 students in just 24 hours to fentanyl poisonings. The incidents unrelated.
I talked with Mary Stevens-Crow, the district coordinator of drug and alcohol supports, about how Portland Public Schools is warning students and parents about the dangers of fentanyl.
I personally know 3 people who've lost a child from fentanyl overdose. But you were telling me about the grieving all the students, but what's that been like the last few years when it comes to these fentanyl overdoses among students in Portland schools?
It's horrible. It's a tragedy, and myself and other people in my department, mourn the death of every student.
Yeah, and the scary thing is that they've absolutely have flooded the market with these. So it's so easy to take something that you don't know what it is.
Students that don't necessarily have a substance use problem can access these pills very easily and easily have a poisoning episode or an overdose. So that's the scary part. There's really no on-ramp for it. At Portland Public Schools, we're trying to address it through a multitude of ways. PPS has a comprehensive health education, kindergarten through 12th grade. We're addressing substance use and decision-making skills that whole time. And in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, we really focus on substance use education and prevention skills. And then we also address it again in high school. The other thing that we have is something called a tiered approach to substance use supports. So we have psychoeducational supports for students and families. We're lucky in that we have 3 certified alcohol and drug counselors. So we also work with and really value our community-based organizations who additionally provide some of that drug and alcohol counseling and groups and family events.
What would be your advice to a parent who maybe suspects that their child is messing around with opioids and the fear of fentanyl, and they don't know what to do?
In my own household, I had 2 kids leave for college this fall, and I said, don't take anything that you don't get from a doctor or you don't buy yourself. So don't even take an ibuprofen from a friend, because it's just such a scary time out there, and we don't know what are in pills, and you don't know where they're coming from, and it's okay to say no. And then I think the community and school districts come around parents by repeating that messaging and talking about it in our health classes and talking about it in groups at school and messaging at school. And so I think that's how we get the word out. We say it the same thing in a lot of different places. The other thing is parents are their best advocate for their children. And so if they feel like something is going on, reaching out for those services and those supports. And schools can be a great place to start, no matter what district your child goes to school in. And counselors and social workers can be a great first person to start with. And they're not necessarily delivering drug and alcohol supports, but they often know who in the community is and how to access those services. The other thing is all insurance is required to cover mental health and substance use supports. And so instead of trying to find the names of individual programs and doing a lot of calling like that, I always encourage families to call their insurance company and ask where their youth can get services and to start there.
We do also want to take a moment to thank our partners with the Wahlberg Youth Foundation. They're helping us spread the word about fake pills in this special report. And Executive Director Jim Wahlberg has been working in addiction recovery decades after battling his own addiction. I got the chance to talk with him about what makes fentanyl different.
For the last almost 20 years or so, folks have been overdosing and dying. The majority of those people have some sort of substance use disorder history. And then it sort of progressed to this sort of ultimate situation where they used too much or whatever it was, or at that point, they came across fentanyl. Usually the vast majority of fentanyl deaths are accidental fentanyl deaths. And for many of these young people now, we're seeing that many of them didn't have that history, that this was not something that was really on the radar of their family, that they were just experimenting or they were using recreationally. Generation after generation, we hear, you know, one thing could kill you. You got to be careful, right? That's never been more true than it is right now.
And I know you've talked about it, how like at 12 years old, you had tried so many things. And I wonder if you ever think like, gosh, if you were a 12-year-old today with social media, with other drugs that are out there, I wonder if you ever think like, the experience that you have, and by the grace of God that you are with us today to talk about that.
So I grew up in a really tough neighborhood. I ran the streets. I was homeless by the time I was 12. So I was already running the streets long before that. And I never knew of anyone that died from an overdose until I went to maximum security state prison. It's the first time I ever heard of anyone really dying from an overdose. And now I'm at events with 10,000 kids, and we turn up the lights. And these are junior high school and high school kids. And I ask, whoever's lost somebody they love to an overdose, please stand up. And 80% of the room stands up. 80% of the room stands up. These kids are dealing with trauma like you can't imagine.
I think when we were younger, we talked about like these messages of scaring kids straight, but now it's like, if you just educate people, they know.
They're scared.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more about like empowering them.
We really need to empower them to take care of each other. If you are my friend, that doesn't mean I keep your secret. That means I speak up to save your life, because it's life and death out there. It really is. It's never been more scary. And so if you have a friend who's going down this path, you have to make a decision. Is it worth losing a friend in an argument or losing a friend forever? Because you'll be going to a funeral and you'll wish you will have spoken up, right? And you will live with that. So we need to speak up. We need to save each other from this madness.
You can go to KOIN.com right now, where you will find links and resources for parents and young people. Everything we've talked about here tonight. Look at the emojis that are now being used on social media to sell fake pills. And take a look at resources provided by the DEA and the One Pill Can Kill campaign.
We also have links to health education from the Beaverton School District and Song for Charlie. That way you can have a conversation with your kids about the dangers that are out there today.
Thank you for watching tonight.
And we do invite you to join us on our Facebook page right now, and that's for a live discussion with Jennifer and John Epstein, Kristen Gustafson, and Special Agent Jake Galvin. They'll be answering your questions about fentanyl and fake pills.
From all of us here at KOIN 6, good night.
This KOIN 6 special, What Every Parent Needs to Know About Fentanyl, is brought to you in partnership with the